Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Elizibar. We're going to talk about this news article here. Marvel picks Penguin Random House as new distributor. Now, the subtitle to this, Marvel's relationship with comic book shops is about to change in a very big way, may be overstated just a little bit. We'll talk about why as we get down and we read through the article and we talk about some of these details. I just saw this on Twitter a little while ago, and I did look through down here to see if there's like any crazy observations people had. I didn't see anything that really stood out. So, what does this mean? Well, if you didn't know, up until last year, comic books were basically distributed to the direct market, to comic book stores. Let's put it that way, to comic book stores through one company, Diamond. DC had an exclusive relationship with them. Marvel had an exclusive relationship with them, which meant that everybody who was anybody and wanted to sell comic books to stores went through Diamond. Last year, in fact, about exactly a year ago, like within a month or so like a year ago, DC was like, yo, we're breaking our relationship with Diamond. Instead, we're going to start distributing our books through two other new companies, which were distribution arms founded by comic book stores. Midtown Comics founded one, and I think the other one was founded by DCBS. And I forget which of the subsidiaries belonged to which company. You know, there was Lunar and whatever the other one was called. Doesn't really matter. They carved up the country and split it pretty much in half so that each company would have its own exclusive territory. Not that unusual in distribution. And of course, that's probably so that those are places that they know they can get books to on time and in good shape and da 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 da. And both those groups have extensive experience shipping comic books. They've been shipping them directly to customers for years in vast quantities. I know DCBS, man, you just order stuff and you just like ship me books once a month and you get a box full of comic books with like $5 shipping. Like, it ain't a bad deal. Assuming that you don't have a local store. If you do have a local store, you know, you're kind of killing your local store by ordering through them. But hey, that is a choice that you need to make for your financial situation, you know, because going to your local store may cost you a little bit more. Anyway, Marvel's relationship with comic book shops is about to change. So Marvel is doing the same thing. Except instead of getting new companies who admittedly had to spin up and figure out how they were going to ship even more books than they already were, in this case, it's going through an actual publisher who's out there with an actual distribution network, warehousing, all that kind of stuff figured out already. Penguin Random House. So it's a little bit of a different situation. Hopefully it's a little less chaotic. And there's one chunk of text down here that I think is kind of a key point that I don't think I saw anybody on Twitter mention when I was looking at this. Marvel Comics has found a new distributor to get its comics into comic shops. Penguin Random House. Marvel's entered into an exclusive multi-year deal with PRH to deliver its comic books, trade collections, and graphic novels to the comic shop market, aka the direct market, beginning on October 1st. And then there's just a whole lot of business babble here that is just totally meaningless. That paragraph, you could remove it from this and you would not damage the integrity of the article at all. It's just babble. It means nothing. What is interesting, though, is this paragraph right here. What does this mean for Marvel's long-standing direct market distributor, Diamond? Direct market retailers can still order through Diamond. Although Diamond will be acting as a wholesaler, ordering Marvel products through Penguin Random House. Now that is kind of interesting, because that means that the relationship a store has to purchasing Marvel doesn't have to change unless the store wants it to change. Because they can still order through Diamond, and they will still get their products through Diamond. So if no stores change how they're ordering books, that just means that ultimately Diamond takes a smaller cut of the money out of each Marvel book. So, and also that probably impacts what stores get out of their cut too. A standard kind of relationship between prices and each step of the distribution change is something like let's say your comic book costs a quarter to print. So you pay, a quarter to the printer, or, well, actually, you probably pay more than that. So you pay, like, let's say 50 cents to the printer, they make a 25-cent profit. Like, each step of the way, you kind of double in price. That's not always true, but when I was working in the book trade many, many years ago, that was kind of like the mental rule of thumb, is that each step of the way in a commercial, non-academic product, you're basically doubling the price. That way you can get your cut and meet your overhead. So you go from like 50 cents to $1 to $2, and then the store gets it at $4. Like, that's the kind of thing that's going on here. You insert another layer into this. If this final, like, the list price stays the same, that means that somebody down below is taking less than that 50% cut. They're getting less than the price that they would ordinarily expect. So that's going to hurt Diamond's bottom line. But the good news is Diamond gets to keep their relationships with stores. Stores get to keep their relationship with Diamond. And stores get to not change. One of the big complaints I heard was a lot of stores were like, I'm going to have to change everything about how I do this. I don't want to order from 2 distributors. You know what real bookstores do? Real bookstores have like 17 different distributors that they order books from. And that's not even counting ancillary products like compact discs, toys, tchotchkes, coffee, if you're like a Barnes & Noble and you have a coffee shop inside your store, Most people in most industries have to deal with much more complicated supply chains than comic book stores. And they deal with it just fine. You just order in a system. You just pull up a page and you just go, yo, I want this thing. I used to order books. Like, I've done that. And there were a few occasions I actually had to call to place orders, but mostly you could just like order through a system that the publisher had or that the distributor had and get your books. It wasn't that complicated. I had no idea what I was doing, and yet it worked fine, There's a whole lot more just kind of babble down here. None of this really matters. This is interesting, that Marvel's relationship with regular bookstores will not change. So like your Barnes & Noble or whatever, if they want a Marvel graphic novel, they'll still get it through Hachette instead of getting it through Penguin Random House. Okay, that's fine. But again, that kind of downplays the title of this thing, the subtitle, which was like, oh, the relationship is about to change a lot. None of these relationships are changing a whole lot immediately. Now, a year from now, the situation might look very different. Stores might find it much more convenient to talk to Penguin Random House instead. I have heard shops and publishers as well complain about their Diamond rep that they've been working with or whatever, or they just don't have a dedicated Diamond rep anymore because Diamond's fired the person that they used to work with all the time that was taking care of them. Stuff like that. In which case, yeah, you might want to talk to Penguin Random House. They might just do you better. I don't know, though. I'm very curious to see what the world will look like in a year. After all the hubbub of the DC stuff, it kind of got quiet. And you don't hear that much about it anymore. People just like, oh yeah, that's just how it is. And they moved on with their life. They didn't worry about it. They didn't fret over it. They just did the work. They just bought the books. This is an interesting note that Penguin Random House already sells comic books, so they already know how to ship this stuff. Now they're shipping it to, regular bookstores. So they're sending this stuff to Barnes & Noble, to, I almost listed off some stores that I'm pretty sure are closed, like Walden Books. Like, I don't think of Walden Books even exists anymore. I miss Walden Books, man. That was always a highlight of going to the mall. You go in and you look at all the books. So many books. But these dudes know how to ship a comic book, which is good. There's not going to be a learning curve. Maybe they have to scale up because they have so many more products going to so many more places. But the fundamental understanding of this is how you pack comic books, this is how you put them in a box, this is how you treat the box, they know how to do that. So they shouldn't have too many snafus. This was an advantage that the DC distributors had, was they knew how to ship comic books because they grew out of comic book stores and their online businesses. We're inheriting some of that here in Penguin Random House, so hopefully stores live well. More babble. This is a nice point. New Comic Book Day is still going to be Wednesday. DC changed it to Tuesday for whatever reason. That's dumb. My store still puts all their books out on Wednesday. Just why would you change that? I don't know, but they did. So Marvel's going to stick to that, and apparently the first releases that can be ordered through Penguin Random House will be solicited starting May 26th. And I think they said the first orders shipped from Penguin Random House will get there like October 1st or something like that. So it's coming soon. 2 months, and stores will be able to take advantage of a new distributor if they want to. One thing I did think was kind of interesting is the choice of Penguin Random House. So Penguin Random House is owned probably through like a couple tiers, but ultimately it goes up to the Bertelsmann Group. The Bertelsmann Group is actually a direct competitor with Disney, which owns Marvel, in a couple areas, like music, for example. So it's kind of interesting to me that Disney is contracting out with one of their competitors, especially because, oops, man, go up to the top. Especially because Disney owns a publishing company. So that seems really weird. Like, they already have an existing distribution network, they have supplies, they have suppliers, they know how to do this stuff. They've been doing this stuff for 30 years. But they chose a different company to do that. That kind of says that Disney expects this to be small potatoes and a lot of trouble. Otherwise, they would have done the job themselves. Generally, when Disney licenses something out, even though they have a business that can do the job, it's because they don't want to do the troublesome work. They want to sit back and just reap a cut of profits for doing as little as possible. I mean, it's smart. If it's a hard job and you can pay somebody $5 to do it, but the final price is of doing the job is going to be $10. Well, you could do all that hard work yourself, or you can pay somebody $5 to go do it, and then you pocket the other $5. And that seems to be kind of what's going on here. Now, of course, I have no privileged information. I was not involved in the conversations, but that's what I suspect. Comic books are such a small market in the grand scheme of things that Disney looks at it and they go, yeah, that's a couple $1,000,000 a year in profit if we do it all ourselves. Or we can have slightly less profit and have somebody else do all this distribution work for us. And I think they chose the latter. And if I were in their shoes, I probably would have chose the latter too. It just makes sense. Like, why stress yourself out when you don't need to? All right. I think that kind of wraps up all the thoughts I had on this topic. You all have a great day, great night, great whatever you got going on. I got to go get this thing uploaded. Take care of yourselves. And just remember, Marvel picks Penguin Random House's new distributor. Boom.